Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre here, and in this video we're going to be looking at a watch that has tremendous value for what it represents, a split-second chronograph from Breitling with their Duograph. So if you are new here on this channel, we cover watches that we carry as an authorized dealer on teddybaldassarre.com, as well as our flagship boutique in Cleveland, Ohio. So in this video, deep dive on this timepiece, final points of consideration at the end. However, throughout the video, if you have further questions or are looking to buy this watch, you can click the link in the description down below to reach out to one of our client advisors online, or you can stop in our boutique and say hello. But guys, without further ado, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at this watch. Dating back to 1884, Breitling can serve as an involved case study in how a watch brand evolves over the course of nearly 140 years in the market. Responsible for horological icons, including the Navitimer, as well as the Super Ocean and Chronomat, it would be fair to say that when most people think of Breitling, sportier designs are top of mind. However, it is important to remember that, especially in the earlier part of its history, Breitling authored some beautiful watch designs that fell more on the refined and complicated end of the spectrum under the Premier name that actually dates all the way back to 1943, well before the Navitimer of 1953 or the Super Ocean in 1957. Despite some challenging years following the quartz crisis, I would argue that Breitling is in a really good place in 2023, benefiting massively from the influence of George Kern, CEO, who took the reins in 2017. 1 year following this new change in leadership, in 2018, the Premier line was reintroduced with the automatic Premier B01 chronograph that was closely followed by the manual winding Premier B09 in 2021. These watches, although maybe not being the ones that first spring to mind when envisioning Breitling, are crucial in helping to bridge that gap to those that maybe have more classic preferences, and is arguably my personal favorite lineup in Breitling's loaded broader collection. However, in this video, we're going to be looking at a watch that matches the stunning looks of others among the Premier collection, but delivering a chronograph type that is almost preposterous for this price point, with a split-second chronograph more formally known as the Premier B15 Duograph. So in short, a split seconds chronograph is equipped with not one, but two elapsed seconds hands, one positioned directly above the other while the chronograph is switched off. Both the hands are started and returned to zero simultaneously if they are running as a pair via a pair of pushers that you'll see on the side of the case. But where this one changes even further is a third pusher, in this case within the crown. This additional pusher allows the split seconds or rattrapant hand to separate from the upper hand to record split times and then be instantly returned into its position under the other. Say one person finishes their race earlier than the other, you'd have both of them running in sequence. When the first person finished, you would then press that additional pusher, stopping the first hand with the other one continuing to move. While it's not likely to be the most useful thing for everyday use nowadays, the split seconds chronograph is notoriously difficult to execute and typically a hallmark of a serious watchmaking brands and the high horology tier like Patek Philippe and A. Lange & Söhne. Its inclusion here in a watch closer to 10 grand than 30, 50, or 100 grand actually makes this arguably the most attainable offering for any watch of this type, working off of in-house innovations. The B15 itself is actually a modular execution of the Breitling B03, another split seconds that was derived from Breitling's pioneering B01 caliber that was introduced all the way back in 2009. Operating at 4 Hz or 28,800 vibrations per hour, the original B01 as well as the B15 provide 70 hours of power reserve, with the chronograph functions offering a column wheel, vertical clutch system with instantaneous response from the chronograph second hand. Another important note is Breitling, instead of using traditional clamps that you will find on high horology examples 10x the price, adds an additional split second wheel to the dial side of the caliber that enables this rattrapant to take action. The caliber also is quite nice to look at, given it being of a manual wound variety. It puts all of the work on display with its visible column wheel, Geneva waves across the central bridges, polished screw heads, engraving, and an array of tasteful jewels. In terms of general operation, again, 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hz. It does feature hacking stopping the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and a power reserve of 70 hours. And finally, as another note about this movement, Breitling surprisingly doesn't make a big deal of it at all. This caliber is also COSC certified, so you know the timekeeping will be reliably tight, with this example running in between -1 to +2 seconds a day when being tested across 5 different positions. Moving from the caliber to the case, we have a 42mm case diameter, a step up in size from the B09, but in alignment with some of the offerings from B01s. Given the movement and the 2.5 millimeter thick sapphire crystal, the watch does measure with a thickness of a not insignificant 15.3 millimeters and a lug-to-lug of 50 millimeters. In totality, the watch wears relatively true to size, with the thickness probably being the main talking point, though I do think before you say this is a deal breaker, that it is important to address that this is a result of the heavily domed crystal and the movement that I would say does not feel as bulky as you would maybe suspect, and I cannot think of another alternative with this chronograph function anywhere near this price segment that can rival these dimensions. Taking a closer look at the case, the Duograph also leans into more of an elegant and refined case architecture, wherein in contrast with some of the sportier Breitling models with largely polished anterior surfaces, including a stepped sloping bezel and ornate lugs featuring some curvaceous facets. The case sides are vertically brushed with 3 engraved lines running parallel along the case length. At 3, a large 8.3 millimeter push-pull crown integrates a tertiary pusher measuring just over 5 millimeters. At 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, we have polished rectangular pushers following a matching pattern to the broader case, even being individually finished with polished edges. And another surprising feature comes with the water resistance, as even with this special crown design and this being more of a dressy appearance, this Premier B15 surprisingly offers 100 meters of water resistance. Set between 22 millimeter lugs, the Duograph opts for a calfskin backed real crocodile strap secured by way of an 18 millimeter deployment buckle constructed from milled components. Taking up a view of the front of the watch, an impressively tall dome sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating on both sides keeps watch over a dial that combines its vintage influence with modern finishing standards. This stainless steel version of the modern Duograph offers up one of the more striking, refined dials in Breitling's catalog, leaning into a sunray finished blue primary surface that acts as an excellent backdrop for the rest of the design. At the outskirts, a tachometer scale printed in white rests just above the plane of the central dial, giving way to a printed minute track just within. The applied Arabic indices are mirror polished and complement the syringe-style handset. Somewhat surprisingly, the hour and minute hands each offer a small sliver of luminescent material for at least a measure of nighttime legibility. As a note, the primary chronograph second hand, which rests on top, is easily distinguished from the lower lying secondary hand by way of its lollipop counterweight, not to be confused with the arrowhead of the other second hand. At 9, a small sub-seconds register is symmetrically oriented opposite the 30-minute timer at 3, and down text is also straightforward, with only the Breitling B and wordmark at 12, and Premier and Duograph in smaller text at 6. All right, so now to unpack looking at the Breitling Premier B15 Duograph. Now, there's a reason why this is a watch that I wanted to cover and I was incredibly excited about covering, just because I think this is one of those hidden gems from Breitling that represents that there's more than meets the eye to this brand. Now, I believe the only true point that I think people might have some contention about is going to be the wearing dimensions of this piece. I don't think the 42 millimeters is a problem, but I can understand the thickness. For some out there, it might just be too much to swallow. However, for a manual wound dressy watch to be over 15 millimeters thick, that definitely is a larger thickness. But again, can we name a alternative that has a split-second chronograph of this styling in this price point? I'm struggling to come up with any true alternative to this, which really brings us to why I wanted to cover this watch and why I think it's so compelling. You're getting a rare complication for this price. Split seconds, retropont, is it necessarily useful? I mean, sure, maybe in some very rare instances, but really what you're getting here is an attention to the craft and appreciation for fine watchmaking and getting a taste of really what is seldom seen in this price range and more reserved for high horology brands. On top of that, you're getting a manufacturer caliber COSC certified 70-hour power reserve to go along with it. Finishing is very solid across the board on the dial, on the case itself, and the movement very much feels at home with this price just over $10,000. And really what I like to do on this channel and just any coverage of watches is I think watches are a individual pursuit. It's not necessarily about, what is the most hyped model? What is the model that is going to maybe get the most attention? For me, what is most important is, does the watch interest you? Is there a layer of depth? Does it align with your personality? And this watch, frankly, has a ton of personality. It goes against much of the traditional form that is modern Breitling, but I think that is partly what makes it unique. And with this complication type that is, again, seldom seen for the price range, it tells a story all in itself. All right, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. It does help us out. In addition, if you are in the market for this watch, it is available on teddybaldassarre.com. More details will be there, and also at our flagship boutique in Cleveland, Ohio. Each product we sell comes with customer support from our team of watch experts, is backed with a full factory warranty, and each sale allows us to continue to invest in future productions, educating consumers around the world about horology. We really do appreciate it. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.